The distress beacon crackled across 17 different star systems, its desperate message bouncing off communication arrays and deep space monitoring stations throughout the Galactic Confederation. Commander Zeth Kree of the Valorian Defense Fleet read the transmission for the 4th time, his elongated fingers drumming against the smooth surface of his command console. "Another one from the Shadowlands," his communications officer, Peltra, announced with obvious disdain. "Same sector as the last 3 we received this cycle." Zethakree's mandibles clicked in agreement. The Shadowlands, that's what most civilized species called the Dark Nebula region that stretched across 47 star systems on the outer rim of known space. It was a place where sensor readings failed, where navigation computers malfunctioned, and where ships that entered often never returned. The few vessels that had emerged from its depths came back with crews driven mad by what they claimed to have seen in the endless darkness. "Standard protocol," Zethkree ordered, though his voice carried no enthusiasm. "Log the transmission, mark the coordinates as hazardous, and issue a general warning to all vessels to avoid the sector." The SOS signal was remarkably clear, despite its origin point deep within the nebula. A small research vessel, the scientific ship Meridian Dawn, had somehow become trapped in what their message described as an artificial gravity well of unknown origin. Their engines were failing, life support was compromised, and they estimated 47 crew members aboard, mostly scientists and explorers from the peaceful Centaurian Republic. But the location was the problem. The Shadowlands had claimed too many ships already. The Galactic Confederation had learned long ago that rescue missions into that cursed region were nothing more than elaborate suicide attempts. The mathematics were simple. Lose one ship trying to save another and double your casualties. No commanding officer worth their rank would authorize such a mission. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated itself. The hegemony of Keth received the transmission and immediately classified it as a hazardous zone incident. Their military doctrine explicitly forbade any operations in sectors with survival ratings below 15%. The Shadowlands rated -3%. The synthetic collective's massive processing centers analyzed the signal with cold efficiency. Their calculations showed a 0.34% probability of mission success versus a 99.66% probability of additional asset loss. The logical conclusion was obvious: do nothing. Even the traditionally heroic Paladin orders of the Stellar Concordat, known throughout the galaxy for their noble rescue operations, declined involvement. Grand Paladin Luxus himself reviewed the case personally. "We cannot save everyone," he declared to his assembled knights. "Wisdom means knowing which battles can be won." The SOS continued to broadcast across subspace channels, growing weaker with each passing hour. The Meridian Dawn's power reserves were failing, and their message had evolved from hope to desperation to something approaching acceptance of their fate. But there was one species that had not yet received the transmission, not because they lacked the technology, but because they had been deliberately excluded from most Galactic Confederation emergency networks. The humans of Earth had only recently achieved faster-than-light travel, and their application for membership in the Confederation was still being debated in committees that moved with glacial slowness. Most galactic citizens knew little about humanity except for disturbing rumors. They came from a world that the xenobiologists had classified as a Class 12 death world, a planet so hostile that it was theoretically impossible for sentient life to evolve there. Earth suffered from extreme weather patterns, dangerous radiation levels, violent tectonic activity, and an ecosystem where virtually every organism had evolved to kill and consume other organisms. The few alien visitors to Earth returned with reports that read like horror stories: predators with razor-sharp teeth, plants that could poison or trap unwary victims, microscopic organisms that could kill in hours, and weather systems capable of destroying entire cities. Humanity had somehow thrived in this nightmare environment, developing technologies and survival instincts that seemed impossible to more civilized species. They called themselves explorers and pioneers, but everyone else quietly referred to them as Deathworlders, beings adapted to a level of danger that would immediately kill most known sentient species. The human vessel UES Perseverance had been conducting routine deep space surveys when their communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Chen, intercepted the distress call. She had been running standard monitoring protocols, listening to the various emergency frequencies used by different species throughout their region of space. "Captain," she called out, her voice cutting through the busy hum of the bridge, "I'm picking up an SOS transmission. Coordinates are... That's strange. It's coming from inside the Shadowlands Nebula." Captain Marcus Rodriguez looked up from his tactical display. He was a veteran of Earth's deep space exploration program, a man whose weathered face told stories of surviving in environments that would have killed most other species. "Range and status?" "Approximately 6 light-years from our current position. The signal is weak but clear. They're requesting immediate assistance." "Sounds like a Centaurian research vessel." Rodriguez frowned. He had heard of the Shadowlands, though humans had never ventured into that region. The area was marked as hazardous on their navigation charts, primarily due to sensor interference and navigation difficulties. But humans had been dealing with hazardous environments their entire evolutionary history. "Any response from Confederation forces?" he asked. Lieutenant Chen worked her console for several moments, scanning various military and civilian frequencies. "Nothing, sir. It appears no one is responding to the distress call." "How long has it been broadcasting?" "Based on signal decay and transmission timestamps, approximately 14 hours. The bridge fell silent, except for the steady hum of the ship's systems. 14 hours was an eternity for a distress signal to go unanswered, especially in this relatively well-traveled region of space. The fact that no one had responded suggested something was seriously wrong with the situation. Commander Elena Vasquez, the ship's first officer, spoke up from her station. "Sir, I've pulled up our intelligence files on the Shadowlands. Every major power in the Confederation has the region marked as essentially off-limits. Multiple ships lost over the past few decades, extremely low survival rates for rescue missions." Rodriguez studied the data streaming across his command screen. The statistics were sobering. Dozens of ships had vanished in the Shadowlands over the past 50 years. Rescue missions had a failure rate approaching 100%. By any reasonable military doctrine, the region was a no-fly zone. But Captain Rodriguez wasn't bound by alien military doctrine. He was human, and humans had built their entire civilization on the principle that impossible survival situations were simply problems waiting for creative solutions. His ancestors had survived ice ages, crossed frozen continents, descended into ocean depths that should have crushed them, and launched themselves into the void of space, despite having no guarantee they could return home. The Meridian Dawn was transmitting a list of crew members, 47 souls from various species, including families with children, scientists and explorers who had dedicated their lives to expanding knowledge and understanding throughout the galaxy. The same kind of people who had driven humanity to reach for the stars. "Commander Vasquez," Rodriguez said quietly, "please plot a course for the Shadowlands. Maximum sustainable speed." The first officer hesitated. "Sir, the risk assessment is based on the capabilities of species that never had to survive on a Class 12 death world," Rodriguez interrupted, his voice carrying the quiet confidence that had made him one of Earth's most respected deep space commanders. "Those crew members have been waiting 14 hours for someone to help them. I don't intend to let them wait any longer." The UES Perseverance changed course, its advanced engines pushing the vessel toward a region of space that had become synonymous with death and disappearance. Behind them, the civilized galaxy continued its daily routines, secure in the knowledge that some risks were simply too great to take. They had no idea that humanity was about to demonstrate exactly why Earth's children were called Deathworlders. The UES Perseverance reached the edge of the Shadowlands Nebula after 18 hours of hard acceleration. Captain Rodriguez stood on the bridge, watching as the view screen displayed the roiling darkness ahead. The nebula stretched across space like a wound in the universe itself, a region where stars were hidden behind clouds of dark matter and electromagnetic interference that turned sensors into useless static generators. "Sensor readings are degrading rapidly," reported Chief Science Officer Dr. Amanda Morrison, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "We're getting massive interference from charged particles and some kind of exotic matter I've never seen before." "Navigation systems are struggling," added Lieutenant Commander James Park from the helm position. "The gravitational fields in there are chaotic. It's like space itself is twisted." Commander Vasquez reviewed tactical displays showing the nebula's edge. "Sir, I'm reading debris fields scattered throughout the outer boundaries. Multiple ship classifications: Valorian, Kethian, Concordate vessels. Some of this wreckage looks decades old." Rodriguez nodded grimly. The evidence of previous failed rescue attempts was sobering, but not unexpected. "Dr. Morrison, can you boost sensor resolution using our backup array?" "I can try, but we'll be essentially flying blind once we're more than a few thousand kilometers inside. The interference is unlike anything in our databases." "Then we adapt," Rodriguez stated simply. "Lieutenant Chen, are you still receiving the distress signal?" The communications officer worked her console, filtering through layers of static and electromagnetic noise. "Yes, sir, but it's getting weaker. The signal is definitely coming from deep inside the nebula, approximately 2 light-years from the outer boundary." 2 light-years through a region that had destroyed every ship that entered it. The crew of the Perseverance exchanged glances, but none of them suggested turning back. They were human after all, and humans had been doing impossible things since they first decided to walk upright on the African savanna. "Take us in, Mr. Park, 1/4 impulse, and be ready for anything." The Perseverance slipped into the Shadowlands like a needle threading through cosmic storm clouds. Almost immediately, the ship's systems began experiencing disruptions. Lights flickered as power conduits struggled against electromagnetic interference. Navigation displays showed conflicting readings as gravitational anomalies played havoc with their instruments. "Hull temperature is fluctuating," reported Engineering Chief Carlos Mendez from his station. "The hull is heating up in some sections and cooling rapidly in others. It's like we're moving through pockets of different physical laws." Dr. Morrison studied her science readings with growing fascination and concern. "Captain, I'm detecting artificial structures throughout this region. They're massive. Some appear to be several kilometers in length. But they're not showing up on standard sensors. I'm only detecting them through gravitational displacement." "Artificial structures?" Vasquez asked. "What kind?" "Unknown. The readings suggest they're made of materials that don't interact normally with electromagnetic radiation. They're essentially invisible to most scanning methods." Rodriguez felt a chill run down his spine. "Could they be responsible for trapping ships that enter this region?" "It's possible, sir. I'm detecting what appear to be localized gravity wells around some of these structures. If a ship got too close, it would be pulled in and unable to escape," Rodriguez finished. "Like the Meridian Dawn." The Perseverance continued deeper into the nebula, navigating by a combination of gravitational readings, electromagnetic whispers, and pure human intuition. The crew worked with the kind of focused intensity that came naturally to a species that had learned to survive in environments that should have killed them. "Contact," announced Tactical Officer Lieutenant Maria Santos. "I'm reading a ship approximately 50,000 kilometers dead ahead. Configuration matches the Meridian Dawn specifications." "Put it on screen." The view screen flickered and resolved into an image that made the crew gasp. The Meridian Dawn hung in space like a broken toy, its hull twisted and scarred. But it wasn't alone. Surrounding the research vessel was a structure that defied easy description, a web of dark material that seemed to absorb light itself, stretching for kilometers in all directions. The ship was caught in this web like an insect in a spider's trap. "My God," Dr. Morrison whispered. "It's some kind of capture mechanism. Look at those energy readings. The web is actively drawing power from the Meridian Dawn systems." "Are there other ships?" Rodriguez asked. Lieutenant Santos expanded her sensor sweep, and the tactical display filled with contact markers. "Sir, I'm counting 17 vessels of various configurations caught in similar structures throughout this region. Some of the energy signatures suggest they've been here for years." The Shadowlands weren't just a dangerous region of space. They were a hunting ground. Something had built these capture mechanisms to trap ships that entered the nebula, slowly draining their power and leaving their crews to die in the darkness. "Sir," Lieutenant Chen interrupted, "I'm receiving a new transmission from the Meridian Dawn. They've detected us." The main screen shifted to show the interior of the research vessel's bridge. Captain Veltar of the Centaurian Republic appeared on screen, his usually immaculate blue skin now pale with exhaustion and fear. Behind him, the bridge showed signs of emergency conditions: flickering lights, smoke damage, and several crew members working desperately at damaged consoles. "Unknown vessel," Veltar transmitted. "Please identify yourself. We did not expect anyone to respond to our distress call. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth vessel UES Perseverance. We received your SOS and are here to provide assistance." Veltar's eyes widened in surprise. "Earth vessel? But your people are not members of the Confederation. How did you receive our signal?" "That's not important right now, Captain. What's your status?" "We have been trapped here for 36 hours, Veltar replied, his voice heavy with despair. "Our engines are completely drained, life support is operating on emergency reserves, and our hull has suffered multiple breaches. We estimate perhaps 6 hours of breathable atmosphere remaining." Rodriguez studied the tactical situation. The web structure holding the Meridian Dawn was massive and obviously designed to resist conventional rescue attempts. Any ship that tried to approach too closely would likely be captured as well. Traditional tractor beams would be useless against something that could manipulate gravitational fields, but humans had never relied on conventional approaches. "Dr. Morrison, analysis of the web structure," he ordered. "It appears to be composed of some kind of programmable matter that can manipulate local gravitational fields. The material is absorbing energy from trapped ships and using it to maintain structural integrity. However," she paused, running additional calculations, "Captain, I think I see a weakness. The structure seems to require a constant energy flow to maintain its gravitational manipulation. If we could overload its absorption capacity..." "It might release its grip on the Meridian Dawn," Rodriguez finished. "What would it take?" "A massive energy discharge directed at the web's central nodes. More power than any normal ship's weapons could generate." Commander Vasquez leaned forward. "Sir, our fusion reactors aren't designed for that kind of power output. We'd risk a catastrophic overload." Rodriguez was quiet for a moment, considering their options. Around them, the bridge crew waited for orders, knowing that their captain was weighing the lives of 47 strangers against the safety of his own ship and crew. It was exactly the kind of impossible decision that humans faced every day on their death world, where the choice was often between certain death and dangerous action. "Mr. Mendez," Rodriguez called to his chief engineer, "how quickly can you configure our fusion reactors for emergency overload?" The engineer's eyes lit up with understanding. "You want to channel our entire power output through the main deflector array? Sir, that would likely destroy our primary systems. We might not have enough power left to escape the nebula." "But it would free the Meridian Dawn?" "Probably, sir. though we'd be gambling everything on a single shot. Rodriguez looked around his bridge, meeting the eyes of each crew member. They were human, every one of them. They had been shaped by a world that demanded impossible choices and rewarded desperate courage. In their faces, he saw the same determination that had driven their species to survive ice ages, cross oceans in wooden boats, and reach for the stars. "Configure for emergency overload, Mr. Mendez. We came here to save lives, and that's exactly what we're going to do." The crew of the UES Perseverance began preparations for the most dangerous gamble of their lives, while somewhere in the dark nebula around them, ancient mechanisms began to stir in response to their presence. Chief Engineer Carlos Mendez worked with controlled desperation in the Perseverance's engineering section, rerouting power conduits and bypassing safety systems that had been designed to prevent exactly what they were about to attempt. Around him, his team moved with the practiced efficiency of people who understood that failure meant death, not just for themselves, but for 47 innocent souls trapped in the alien web. "Fusion reactor output at 140% of normal parameters," Mendez reported over the intercom. "I can push it to 160%, but beyond that we risk complete core breach." "Do it," Rodriguez ordered from the bridge. "How long until we can fire?" 3 minutes for the reactors to reach peak output, sir. But, Captain, once we discharge this much energy through the deflector array, we'll likely lose primary power for several hours. Navigation, shields, weapons, everything will be offline." The implications were clear. If their plan failed, the Perseverance would be helpless in a region of space that had already claimed dozens of ships. They would become just another victim of whatever had built these capture mechanisms. Dr. Morrison continued her analysis of the alien web structure, her fingers flying across sensor displays as she refined their targeting solution. "Captain, I'm detecting movement in the web material. It's almost like it's becoming aware of our presence. Energy readings are increasing throughout the structure." "The web is responding to us?" Commander Vasquez asked. "More than that, I think the entire nebula is responding. I'm picking up similar energy spikes from other web structures throughout the region. Whatever built these things, I don't think it's gone." Lieutenant Santos looked up from her tactical station, her face pale. "Sir, I'm detecting massive gravitational distortions approaching our position. Something big is moving through the nebula toward us." Rodriguez felt his blood run cold. They had assumed the capture mechanisms were automated, ancient relics left behind by some long-dead civilization. But if something was still active in the Shadowlands, still maintaining and controlling these traps— "Time to weapons ready?" he asked. 90 seconds, Mendez replied, strain evident in his voice. "Reactor output approaching maximum tolerance." On the main screen, Captain Veltar of the Meridian Dawn watched their rescue attempt with growing concern. "Earth vessel, we are detecting massive energy buildups throughout the region. I fear your presence has triggered some kind of defensive response." Rodriguez opened a channel to the trapped ship. "Captain, we're going to attempt to free you from that web in 60 seconds. The moment you feel the gravitational field release, fire your emergency thrusters and get clear of the structure." "But our engines have no power," Veltar protested. "Emergency thrusters run on chemical propellants, not reactor power. You should have enough for basic maneuvering." There was a pause as the Centaurian captain consulted with his crew. "Understood. We are prepared." Dr. Morrison's voice cut through the bridge chatter with urgency. "Captain, whatever is approaching us, it's massive. I'm reading a structure at least 10 kilometers in length moving in our direction. Estimated time of arrival, 2 minutes. "Weapon status?" Rodriguez demanded. "Deflector array charged to 160% of maximum design capacity," Lieutenant Santos reported. "All power from fusion reactors being channeled through primary systems. Sir, if this doesn't work—" "It will work," Rodriguez stated with the absolute confidence that had carried humanity through ice ages and into the stars. "It has to work." The seconds ticked by with agonizing slowness. On the engineering deck, Mendez watched power levels climb beyond anything the ship had been designed to handle. Warning lights flashed throughout the vessel as automated systems protested the massive energy buildup. 30 seconds, Mendez announced. Reactor temperature approaching critical thresholds. Through the darkness of the nebula, the massive alien structure continued its approach. It moved with purpose and intelligence, its form gradually resolving on sensors as something that defied human understanding, a fusion of technology and biology, ancient beyond measure and utterly hostile to any life that dared enter its domain. 10 seconds, Rodriguez announced to his crew. All hands, brace for impact. The moment stretched like an eternity. On the bridge of the Meridian Dawn, Captain Veltar and his crew prepared for what might be their final moments. In the engineering section of the Perseverance, Chief Mendez held his breath as reactor temperatures climbed toward catastrophic failure. Fire, Rodriguez ordered. The UES Perseverance unleashed the full fury of its fusion reactors in a single, devastating energy discharge. The beam that emerged from the deflector array carried enough power to obliterate a small moon, focused into a coherent stream of pure energy that struck the alien web structure with the force of a solar flare. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The dark material of the web began to glow with absorbed energy, its gravitational manipulation systems overloading as they tried to process power levels far beyond their design parameters. Throughout the structure, nodes began to explode in brilliant cascades of light, releasing energy that had been stored from dozens of captured ships over decades. The gravitational field holding the Meridian Dawn collapsed like a burst bubble. The research vessel immediately fired its emergency thrusters, struggling to escape the disintegrating web before the entire structure collapsed. But the Perseverance paid the price for its desperate gambit. Every light on the bridge went out as the ship's power systems failed catastrophically. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting everything in an eerie red glow. The ship drifted helpless as its engines went offline, and life support systems switched to backup power. "All stop," Commander Vasquez announced unnecessarily, since they no longer had any control over their movement. "Primary power systems offline. Estimate 4 hours minimum for reactor restart procedures." Rodriguez felt the ship shudder around him as the massive alien structure approached through the nebula. Without power for shields or weapons, they were completely defenseless. "Sir," Dr. Morrison called out from her station, running on emergency power. "The alien structure has stopped approaching. In fact, it appears to be withdrawing." "Withdrawing?" "Energy readings throughout the nebula are decreasing rapidly. The other web structures appear to be shutting down. It's like our attack on one structure triggered a general retreat." Lieutenant Chen, monitoring communications on backup power, suddenly straightened in her chair. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the Meridian Dawn. They're clear of the web structure and requesting permission to come about and assist us." Rodriguez allowed himself a small smile in the darkness of his powerless bridge. "Permission granted. Tell them we could use the help." Over the next several hours, the crew of the Meridian Dawn worked alongside human engineers to restore power to the Perseverance. It was a strange collaboration. The methodical, safety-conscious approach of Centaurian technicians working with the improvised, risk-taking methods of human engineers. Captain Veltar joined Rodriguez on the restored bridge of the Perseverance as both ships prepared to depart the Shadowlands. The nebula around them had changed dramatically. The oppressive darkness was lifting as the alien structures shut down their energy absorption systems and retreated to whatever depths they had come from. "Captain Rodriguez," Veltar said formally, "on behalf of my crew and the families of our 47 members, I thank you. No other species would have attempted such a rescue." Rodriguez nodded. "We couldn't leave you behind." "That's not who we are." "Indeed," Veltar mused, studying the human captain with new understanding. I have read reports about your species, about the world you come from. Until today, I thought they were exaggerations. Now I understand why the galaxy calls you Deathworlders. We prefer human, Rodriguez replied with dry humor. Of course, but you must understand, what you accomplished here today will be remembered. You succeeded where the entire Galactic Confederation failed. Your people risked everything to save strangers, without hesitation, without calculation of odds or political considerations. As both ships emerged from the Shadowlands Nebula, they found a sight that neither captain expected. Waiting at the nebula's edge was a small fleet of vessels from various species, Valorian defense ships, Concordat paladins, and even a synthetic collective observation cruiser. "Unknown vessels," came a transmission from the lead Valorian ship. "Please identify yourselves. We detected massive energy discharges from within the nebula." Rodriguez opened a general channel to the assembled fleet. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the UES Perseverance, along with Captain Veltar of the rescued vessel Meridian Dawn. The Shadowlands no longer pose a threat to galactic shipping. Whatever was in there has withdrawn." There was a long pause before the Valorian commander responded. "Captain Rodriguez, you are saying you entered the Shadowlands and returned successfully, with rescued survivors?" "Confirmed. 47 crew members of the Meridian Dawn have been safely recovered." The silence that followed spoke volumes. Across the assembled fleet, crews that had received the same distress signal 36 hours earlier and had done nothing now faced the reality that a single human ship had accomplished what their combined forces had deemed impossible. Grand Paladin Luxus himself appeared on the communication screen, his noble features showing a mixture of shame and amazement. "Captain Rodriguez, what you have achieved today, it defies all military doctrine, all reasonable assessment of risk versus benefit. How did you justify such action to your superiors?" Rodriguez looked around his bridge at the crew that had followed him into the abyss without question, then back at the screen. "Paladin Luxus, we didn't need to justify anything. 47 people needed help. We helped them. That's what humans do." The simple statement carried across subspace channels throughout the Confederation fleet, and from there to every major power in the galaxy. Within days, recordings of the rescue would be studied in military academies and philosophical institutes across dozens of worlds. The species that had been dismissed as barbaric Deathworlders had demonstrated something that the galaxy's greatest civilizations had forgotten. Sometimes the right choice and the smart choice were completely different things. As the human ship turned toward home, Captain Veltar transmitted a final message to the assembled fleet. "To all vessels present, today you witnessed why the humans of Earth deserve not just membership in our Confederation, but our deepest respect. They risked everything to save strangers, because it was the right thing to do. Perhaps we, who call ourselves civilized, might learn something from these Deathworlders." The UES Perseverance departed the scene with a full hold of rescued scientists and a reputation that would echo across the galaxy. Behind them, the Shadowlands remained quiet and empty, their ancient guardians having learned that some prey was more dangerous than it appeared. And somewhere in the depths of space, the galaxy's bureaucrats began the process of fast-tracking humanity's application for Confederation membership, though they suspected the humans would continue to ignore impossible odds and save people regardless of what any committee decided.